Thanksgiving at the Harrison family estate followed the same choreography every year. My sister Vanessa arrived first, her entrance timed for maximum impact. This year she'd brought her fiancé Brett, a hedge fund manager she'd been dating for 4 months but talked about like they'd been married for decades. I arrived quietly through the side door, carrying the pumpkin pies I'd baked at 6 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. No one noticed my entrance. They were too busy admiring the 3-carat diamond on Vanessa's finger. "It's from Tiffany's," she announced, angling her hand to catch the chandelier light. Brett had it custom designed. The setting alone cost more than most people's cars. Mom clutched Vanessa's hand, examining the ring with the reverence usually reserved for religious relics. "It's stunning, sweetheart." "Absolutely stunning." Dad clapped Brett on the shoulder. "Welcome to the family, son. You're getting the best of the Harrison girls." I set the pies on the kitchen counter and started helping the caterers arrange serving dishes. The familiar role of invisible assistant settled over me like an old apron. "Jenny, darling, don't fuss with that," Mom said, barely glancing my way. "The caterers have it handled. Come meet Brett properly." I'd already met Brett twice, but I obediently went to the living room and shook his hand again. He looked through me with the polite disinterest of someone greeting their partner's forgettable relative. "Nice to see you again," he said, already turning back to Dad to discuss golf handicaps. Vanessa was holding court on the cream-colored sofa, her engagement ring prominently displayed on the armrest. "We're thinking a June wedding. Garden ceremony, reception at the yacht club. 300 guests minimum. Whatever you want, princess," Dad said. "Only the best for our Vanessa." I retreated to the kitchen and helped carry dishes to the dining room. The table could seat 16, but today it was just family. My parents, Vanessa and Brett, my Aunt Linda and me. The empty chairs seemed to emphasize how small our family had become since Grandma Catherine passed 8 months ago. Grandma's chair at the head of the table remained conspicuously empty. No one had suggested sitting there. It felt too soon, too final. We'd just finished the first course when the doorbell rang. Mom frowned. Who could that be? "Everyone's here." The housekeeper returned moments later with a man in his 60s, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. I recognized him immediately. Martin Westwood, Grandma Catherine's estate attorney. "Martin," Dad stood, surprised. "We weren't expecting you." "My apologies for the intrusion," Martin said smoothly. "I was in the area visiting family and thought I'd stop by to discuss some time-sensitive matters with Jennifer. But I see you're in the middle of dinner." "I can come back." "No, please join us," Mom said, though her voice carried a note of confusion. "We have plenty of food." Martin smiled and took the empty seat beside me. "Thank you. I won't take much of your time." A server brought him a plate. He made polite conversation for a few minutes, asking about everyone's year, congratulating Vanessa on her engagement. Then he turned to me with the professional warmth of someone who'd known me since childhood. "Jennifer, have you had a chance to review the distribution options I sent last week? We need to finalize the $5.7 million estate allocation by year-end for tax purposes." The champagne glass slipped from Vanessa's hand. It hit the edge of her plate and shattered, sending crystal shards and pale liquid across the white tablecloth. My parents froze mid-chew, their faces identical masks of shock. Brett's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Mom managed to choke out, "Estate? What estate?" I calmly set down my fork and dabbed my napkin at the champagne spreading across the table. "Grandma Catherine's estate." "I was going to mention it, but the timing never seemed right," Martin continued, as if he'd just commented on the weather. Catherine's wishes were quite specific. The $5.7 million includes the liquidated investment portfolio, the proceeds from the Park Avenue apartment sale, and the art collection valuation. As executor, Jennifer has full discretion over the distribution timeline and charitable allocations. Vanessa's face had gone from pink to white to a mottled red. Executor? Jenny's the executor of Grandma's estate? "The sole executor and primary beneficiary," Martin confirmed, pulling documents from his briefcase. "Catherine revised her will 14 months before her passing." "Jennifer, I have the final papers here for the museum donation you wanted to arrange." The Metropolitan is very enthusiastic about the Catherine Harrison collection of Impressionist works. Dad found his voice. "Mother left everything to Jenny?" "All of it? Not everything. Martin clarified. There are specific bequests. Linda receives the Connecticut beach house and its contents. You receive Catherine's share of the family business, valued at roughly $800,000. And the rest? Mom whispered. The Park Avenue apartment? The investments? The art? All to Jennifer, Martin said simply. Along with executive authority over the Catherine Harrison Foundation, which Jennifer established 6 months ago. The foundation has an endowment of $2.1 million, separate from Jennifer's personal inheritance. Aunt Linda was the only one who didn't look shocked. She raised her wine glass toward me with a small smile. Catherine told me what she was planning. She said Jenny was the only one who understood what mattered. Vanessa's voice came out strangled. This is insane. Grandma was losing her mind at the end. This can't be legal. Catherine was evaluated by 3 separate physicians in the month before she revised her will, Martin said, his tone cooling. All confirmed she was of completely sound mind. The will is ironclad, Vanessa. Multiple witnesses, notarized, filed properly. Any challenge would be both expensive and unsuccessful. But why? Dad looked at me like he'd never seen me before. Why would Mother leave everything to you? I met his gaze steadily, because I was there. What's that supposed to mean? Vanessa snapped. It means I visited her 3 times a week for the last 2 years of her life, I said quietly. I was there for every doctor's appointment, every hospital stay, every moment of fear and pain and loneliness. We visited, Mom protested weakly. You visited on Christmas and Easter, I said. 45 minutes each time, including the drive. You spent the entire visit talking about Vanessa's career and showing Grandma photos on your phone. That's not fair, Vanessa said. I had a demanding job. I couldn't just drop everything to sit in a nursing home. She wasn't in a nursing home, I corrected. She was in her apartment until 6 weeks before she died. And I didn't ask you to drop everything. But a phone call once a week would have meant something to her. Martin cleared his throat gently. Catherine kept a journal during her final year. She documented every visit, every phone call, every card or letter. Jennifer's name appears on almost every page. The rest of you are mentioned perhaps a dozen times total. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of a server quietly sweeping up the broken glass. Brett, who had been silent throughout, carefully set down his silverware. So you're saying Jennifer is worth over $5 million? Closer to $8 million when you include the foundation assets and the property values, Martin said. Though the foundation money is restricted for charitable purposes, naturally, I watched Brett's eyes flicker to me, then to Vanessa, calculating. The dynamic at the table had shifted in a way that was almost visible. I don't understand, Mom said. Jenny works at a nonprofit. She drives a 10-year-old Honda. She lives in that tiny apartment in Queens. I work at the Catherine Harrison Foundation, I corrected, which I founded and direct. The apartment is in Forest Hills, and it's perfect for my needs. The car runs fine. But you have millions of dollars, Vanessa said, her voice rising. And you're living like money isn't the only measure of a life well lived? I suggested. Dad pushed his plate away. When did this happen? When did Mother change her will? October 12th, 2 years ago, Martin said, shortly after Jennifer took a leave of absence from her job to care for Catherine during her hip surgery recovery. Catherine told me she'd finally seen clearly who valued her and who valued her money. That's a horrible thing to say, Mom said, tears forming. We loved Mother. I'm sure you did, Martin said. But Catherine needed more than love. She needed presence, attention, someone who saw her as a person, not a future inheritance, Aunt Linda spoke up. Catherine used to call me crying. She'd say everyone was too busy for her, except Jenny. Jenny would bring her books from the library. Jenny would sit and listen to her stories. Jenny treated her like she still mattered. We were building our lives, Vanessa said defensively. Our careers. I couldn't put everything on hold for weekly visits. No one asked you to, I said. But you could have called. You could have sent cards. You could have remembered her birthday without me texting you a reminder. Vanessa's face crumpled. So this is punishment? She punished us for having lives? She rewarded someone for caring, Martin said firmly. There's a difference. Brett stood abruptly. I need some air. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Brett, Wait, but he was already walking toward the patio, pulling out his phone. I watched Vanessa's face as she realized what was happening. The mental recalculation, the shift in family dynamics. The sudden realization that her younger sister wasn't the family's charity case anymore. She followed Brett outside, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Dad turned to Martin. Is there anything we can do? Any way to contest this? Robert, Aunt Linda said sharply. Don't. I'm not trying to take anything from Jenny, Dad said. But Mother clearly wasn't thinking straight. She was grieving, lonely, vulnerable. She was sharper than any of us until her last breath. I interrupted. She knew exactly what she was doing. She told me herself, multiple times. She said she was tired of being treated like an ATM with a heartbeat. Mom flinched. She never said that. Not to you, I agreed. She said it to me, along with a lot of other things about how invisible she felt. How forgotten. How the only time her phone rang was when someone needed something. Martin stood, closing his briefcase. Jennifer, we can finalize the museum donation next week. The Met is planning a spring exhibition of the collection. They'd like you to speak at the opening. I'll be there, I said. He nodded to the room. Enjoy your holiday. Linda, always a pleasure. Then he left, leaving a silence that felt heavier than his presence had. Aunt Linda reached over and squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would be proud of what you're doing with the foundation. The literacy programs are exactly what she would have wanted. Thank you, I said. I'm trying to honor her vision. A literacy foundation? Mom said faintly. You started a literacy foundation? The Katherine Harrison Foundation for Adult Literacy, I confirmed. We provide free tutoring and educational resources to adults who never learned to read properly. Last year, we served 847 people. This year, we're on track for over 1,000. I never knew, Dad said. I told you, I said. At Easter. You said that's nice, dear, and changed the subject to Vanessa's promotion. Dad's face fell. I don't remember that. I do, Aunt Linda said. I asked Jennifer questions about it for 20 minutes while the rest of you discussed Vanessa's corner office. Through the patio doors, I could see Vanessa and Brett in what looked like an intense conversation. Brett kept gesturing, and Vanessa kept shaking her head. Mom was crying quietly now. I failed her. I failed my own mother. Yes, I said gently. You did, but she forgave you. She told me to tell you that, after she was gone. She forgave all of you. She just didn't forget. And now you're in charge of millions of dollars, Dad said. You're 29 years old. That's an enormous responsibility. I'm 31, I corrected. And I've been managing the foundation for 6 months. The board includes 3 financial advisors, 2 philanthropic experts, and Aunt Linda. We're doing fine. I had no idea you were capable of this, Mom said. The words hung in the air. I had no idea you were capable of this. That's the problem, I said quietly. You never bothered to find out what I was capable of. You assumed I was the forgettable one. The quiet one. The one without Vanessa's ambition or charisma. We never thought that, Dad protested. You never thought about me at all, I said. Not really. When was the last time you asked about my life? My work, my interests. Anything beyond, how are you? They had no answer. Vanessa and Brett returned from outside. Brett's face was neutral, professionally polite. Vanessa's eyes were red. We should go, Vanessa said stiffly. Brett has an early meeting tomorrow. But we haven't had dessert, Mom said weakly. I'm not hungry anymore, Vanessa grabbed her purse. At the door, she turned to me. I hope you enjoy your money, Jenny. I hope it makes you happy. It's not about happiness, I said. It's about purpose. Grandma understood that. She left without another word, Brett following silently behind her. The remaining 4 of us sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Aunt Linda stood. I should go too. Jenny, walk me out. Outside, she hugged me tightly. You handled that beautifully. Did I? I feel like I just destroyed Thanksgiving. You told the truth. Katherine wanted them to know. She wanted them to understand what their neglect cost them. She wanted them to feel guilty. She wanted them to change, Aunt Linda corrected. Guilt is just the catalyst. What they do with it is up to them. She drove away, leaving me standing in the driveway. Inside, I could see my parents through the window, sitting at the dining table, talking quietly. I went back in. They looked up when I entered. "Can we talk?" Dad asked. "We are talking," I said, echoing what I said so many times to Grandma when she worried I was too busy for her. "Really talk," Mom clarified. "About everything, about Mother, about you. About how badly we failed as parents." I sat down. "Okay, tell us about the foundation," Dad said. "From the beginning, don't leave anything out." So I did. I told them about finding Grandma crying one day because she'd forgotten how to read. The mini stroke had affected her vision and cognitive processing. I told them about researching adult literacy programs and being shocked at how many people struggled with reading. About Grandma's idea to create a foundation that would help others the way ID helped her relearn. I told them about the quiet launch 6 months ago. About the 30 volunteers we'd trained. About Marcus, a 52-year-old construction worker who hidden his illiteracy for decades and was now reading bedtime stories to his grandchildren. About Sophia, who'd passed her GED at 63. About James, who'd been promoted at work after finally being able to read safety manuals. My parents listened without interrupting. Really listened, maybe for the first time in years. "The Metropolitan Exhibition," Mom said when I finished. "When is it?" "April 14th. Opening gala is April 13th. Can we come?" Dad asked. "To the gala? Are you asking because you want to be there or because you think you should be there?" He thought about it. "Both, but more the first one. I want to see what you've built. I want to understand who my daughter actually is." "Then yes," I said. "You can come." Mom reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm sorry for all of it, for not seeing you. For assuming you were somehow less than Vanessa because you were quieter." "I am less than Vanessa in many ways," I said. "I'm not as charismatic or socially skilled. I don't network effortlessly or command a room. But I'm not less valuable. I'm just different." "You're extraordinary," Dad said. "And we missed it completely." "You can't get those years back," I said. "But you can be present for the years ahead. If you want to be, we do," Mom said firmly. "Whatever it takes." I pulled out my phone and showed them the foundation's website, the programs we offered, the success stories, the upcoming initiatives. They asked questions, real questions that showed they were actually absorbing the information. "Can we volunteer?" Mom asked. "I was a teacher before I married your father. I could help with the tutoring. We have training sessions every month," I said. "Next one is December 8th. We'll be there," Dad promised. I forwarded them the information. Both their phones chimed simultaneously. We talked until almost midnight about Grandma, about the foundation, about the years they'd overlooked me in favor of Vanessa, about how to build something better going forward. At the door, Dad hugged me. Actually hugged me, not the perfunctory side hug I usually got. "Your grandmother was right about you," he said. "You were the best of all of us." I drove home to my apartment in Forest Hills. Small, but mine. The walls were covered with photos from the foundation. Marcus reading to his grandson. Sophia holding her GED certificate. James in his new safety supervisor uniform. The money sat in carefully managed accounts. The foundation operated with clear metrics and measurable outcomes. Grandma's art collection would soon hang in the Met with her name attached, ensuring her passion for Impressionism lived on. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Brett broke up with me. Said he can't marry someone from a family with unstable financial dynamics. Thanks a lot." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. "I'm sorry he couldn't see your value beyond our family's money. You deserve better." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Did Grandma really say she forgave us?" "Yes. She said she loved you all. She just wished you'd loved her back when she was alive, not just as a memory." I did love her. Then show it going forward. Donate to literacy programs in her name. Volunteer. Make her legacy mean something. "Maybe I will. The foundation always needs help. You'd be welcome." The dots appeared and disappeared several times before her final message. "I'll think about it." It wasn't a promise. But it was a possibility. I made tea and sat by the window, looking out at the Queen's skyline. Somewhere in the city, the Metropolitan was preparing space for Grandma's art collection. Somewhere, An adult who'd hidden their illiteracy for decades was learning to read. Somewhere, a family was fractured but trying to heal. The money had changed everything and nothing. I was still me, quiet, focused, purpose-driven. But now I had the resources to make a real difference. To honor the woman who'd seen value in me when no one else had bothered to look. Grandma's last words to me had been whispered in the hospital, 3 days before she died. Make it matter, Jenny. The money, the art, all of it. Make it matter. I was trying. Every day, in small ways and large, I was trying. The foundation would grow. My family might heal. Vanessa might find her way to something meaningful beyond designer handbags and society galas. And if nothing changed despite this revelation, I'd be okay. I had purpose. I had Grandma's legacy to steward. I had 847 people who could now read because we'd given them a chance. That mattered more than any inheritance. But having both the resources and the purpose, that was the gift Grandma had really given me, not the money. The freedom to make a difference on a scale I'd only dreamed about. I raised my teacup to the window, to the city, to Grandma's memory. I'm making it matter, I whispered. I promise, and somewhere I liked to think she was smiling.